Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cradle Bytes. My name is Sima Tayyim. I am content creator and head of social media at The Cradle, and I'm joined by my colleague Karim Shami, writer and content creator for The Cradle. We have a lot to catch up on. A lot has been going on. And, overnight we had Israeli bombing of Lebanon, Gaza, and Syria in Latakia. We had the U.S. using B-2 stealth bombers and reportedly bunker buster bombs against weapons depots in Yemen, although Yemeni military sources say there was no damage to weapons stores, apparently. And over the past few days, we've had massacres and destruction across Lebanon and Gaza, notably the massacre in Aituz Gharta a few days back in northern Lebanon, an area not usually targeted. And the targets of this massacre were people displaced from South Lebanon. Opposition media in Lebanon and Western media spread rumors that it was an assassination attempt. However, it wasn't. We have had elements in Lebanon inciting against the targeting of displaced people and saying the militants are hiding themselves between them. We saw the Israeli army blow up an entire historical neighborhood in Mhaibib in Marjayun, Nabatiya in South Lebanon, which is home to the ancient shrine of the prophet Benjamin, son of Yaqub, Jacob. They destroyed yesterday in Nabatiya the municipality building and killed the mayor and other municipal members and over a dozen of other innocents. We are seeing massacre after massacre in the Gaza Strip, especially central and northern Gaza, which is now an extermination zone, quite literally. Nothing has been let in. People are killed just for moving. We saw displaced Palestinians being burned alive. We are seeing shelter after shelter being targeted while Israel continues to claim that it's hitting command centers. We have also just had the news that apparently Hamas chief in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, has been killed in Gaza. Now, as far as I'm seeing, as far as while we are recording this video, by the time it comes out, I don't know. But we haven't had an official confirmation by the Israeli army nor the Hamas movement. However, there were photos that came out and there was a statement by the Israeli army and the Shin Bet saying that 3 fighters were killed and that the army was checking the possibility that one of those 3 fighters was Yahya Sinwar. And they say that they are now confirming his identity, and different sources have come out and said already that it has been confirmed. So they are saying this was not an assassination operation, that this supposedly happened by accident. There are photos circulating that we will not share because they're not very pleasant. And unfortunately, the photos do look like him. And he seems to be wearing a vest as if he was in combat. Now, the strange thing is the corpse in these photos looks like this person has been dead for quite a long time. It doesn't look like someone who was just killed today. So we're not sure about really when this happened. But it's looking more and more like it's true. And although, it's best to wait for resistance confirmation, unfortunately, when the Israeli occupation army comes out and says that they've most likely killed someone, they're not lying. They lie about other things, but they don't lie about this. Karim, I mean, if it's true that he was, in combat, I think you saw the photos. He was wearing a vest and he looked like he could have been in combat. What does that say, first of all, about people who said that all he did was hide in tunnels and he was never in the field itself? If it really is true, and it's looking like it's true, this means that he was killed while fighting. I mean, according to the photos and according to what we've heard. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, exactly. Since like years and years before even the war, Israeli media and the Gulf media always say that resistant leaders, they often run away wearing a burqa or portraying a woman, so they can so they will not be killed or stopped. But as we saw in the photos, he was in full gear and he was ready to fight the moment he was assassinated. So, and you talked about massacres in Lebanon and in Palestine just now. Also, while you were talking, I saw that there was a new massacre in Gaza. And you mentioned what happened in Nabati. I just want to clarify that there are sources that say that the people that were killed in Nabati, including the mayor, they had a meeting and they were talking what they should do in the future regarding the displaced and the devastation that occurred in the city. And yet they were targeted and killed by Israel. And what's happening really, and the people, as I see it, people are suffering. Most of the leaders of the resistance now are killed. but this doesn't change anything on the ground. The fight will continue, and this will not stop the war. This will, of course, the masses will be devastated and will be disappointed. But the fighters on the ground, I think now they have more than one reason to fight Israel. They will want to fight Israel now, not only because it's an occupation entity, but also because it's this entity is killing their leaders. They are killing children and women, and they are killing all the leaders. So this, I think, will be translated on the ground, and we will see more fierce fight on the ground. And I want to talk about what's happening in the south, which is like most of the people want to know what's happening in the south. Currently, Israel, since around 15 days, they are trying to penetrate uh, some villages in Lebanon, and till now they didn't succeed, although they posted many videos and photos. But as we know from our sources, and to be honest, I am from the south and I know many people from the south, what's happening is that the Israelis, under the fire of their air force, they are advancing in some villages. They are taking photos. They are going to houses inside these villages, and then they are retreating very fast. And that's exactly what was said also by Nabih Berri, who is the Speaker of the Parliament of Lebanon. He's saying that they are going inside some villages, but they are retreating very fast. And let's talk more in details of what's happening in south of Lebanon. So Israel is trying to penetrate Lebanon from the southeast, and the major battles or the major points that are being targeted by Israel and where Israel is trying to advance is Taibe, Ribit Latin, Markaba, and Hula. These four villages are adjacent to the borders, and they are usually they don't have like high altitude. يعني these villages are between 400 and 600 meters at max. And Israel till now, since 15 days, they are trying to penetrate them from around 6 fronts, but till now it was unsuccessful. And of course, Hezbollah is confronting these advances. And Israeli media and even Hezbollah media said that there was clashes at zero distance between the two sides. And there's another front in South Lebanon, in the middle of South Lebanon. It's between three villages, Al-Quzah, Ramya, Ait al-Shab. Here, Israel is trying to advance through its heavy armored vehicles. And yesterday we saw videos and photos of these armored vehicles being destroyed. And most of the vehicles that are being targeted, they are Merkava, Nimr, or any armored vehicles. Most of the vehicles are being targeted in this triangle between these three villages. Currently, these are the two major fronts in South Lebanon. Until now, Israel is advanced at max 2 kilometers to 3 kilometers in these areas, and then they are retreating. Till now, there are no military sites inside Lebanon. And on the other hand, Hezbollah is firing. And just 3 days ago, Hezbollah announced that a new weapon entered the battle, which is a missile. It has a warhead of 450 kilograms and a range of around 200 kilometers. And many people are saying, why now? Maybe it's too late, or they should have used this during the past year. But Hezbollah pace is very slow currently. If somebody is like watching militarily what's happening, Hezbollah is still acting as if the war is only 1 month old, not as if it's 1 year old. And they are still using or introducing new weapons, which for some, including me, might be weird, because if you are in a battle and the war is like bigger than 2006 war, until now they are still introducing new weapons. I don't know if the leaders of Hezbollah or Hezbollah thinks that this war might take like 1 or 2 years, and that's why they are acting as if it's just started. And they are maybe telling the Israelis, we have many cards, although Israel now they have only one card, is to target civilians in Lebanon. And of course, there's another card for Israel, which now it's using, and now we are feeling it in Lebanon, which is the Israel's allies in Lebanon. We have around more than one party that has no problem with Israel, and they want Hezbollah to be destroyed. And we have two major parties, which are Lebanese forces and Kataib, and especially after last week when Netanyahu went to the TV and gave a statement, and he said this statement is for the Lebanese people and for Lebanon. And after that, we started to see them saying that we don't want Hezbollah. There is no Lebanon without Hezbollah. And they also started to say that there is Hezbollah among refugees. And they gave Israel an excuse to bomb civilians because they themselves, and they are Lebanese, and they have nobody on the ground. Yani, you see like a guy from Lebanese forces who lives like in the north saying that displaced in the south, there's people, there's his people among them, or they are saying there's leaders among the civilians, which give Israel an opportunity to bomb them. So we have the PA in in Palestine, and we have Kataib and Lebanese forces in Lebanon. That's what's happening currently in Lebanon. So we have the southern front, and we have the Israeli bombing campaign across Lebanon, which is currently killing civilians. Previously, يعني 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, okay, the bombings resulted in civilians plus Hezbollah leaders or people from Hezbollah, but nowadays solely that they are targeting only civilians, and uh, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty, fair picture to paint about what's happening in Lebanon now. We don't know, it's still the case that the U.S. and Israel do not want a ceasefire in Lebanon or in Gaza. And it's also the case that, going back to Gaza and going back to Yahya Sinwar, it's also the case that, you said Israel only, has kind of exhausted all its options. Well, the thing is, the price of the war is so high, and the assassinations policy is a card that's being used repeatedly, and the difficulty and the the sadness and the pain that Israel causes, it makes it difficult for people to see that really strategically it's most likely not going to be achieving any of its goals. But when you see massacres, when you see the assassinations of leaders, your vision becomes blurred. You become disillusioned, and you feel the thing is, what I wanted to say about the assassination of leaders specifically, not just destruction and massacres of civilians, is that Israel does not only assassinate leaders to physically get rid of them. Israel assassinates leaders to instill defeatism, to show all people who are free thinkers and who are with armed resistance that they should no longer rely on armed resistance. The idea is to psychologically destroy people so that they can accept Israel as a reality in the region. So there's more than one layer. It's punishment. All the punishment that Israel inflicts is not just to cause physical pain and destruction. It's to cause psychological pressure and to instill this idea that we will reach these terrorists wherever they are, nobody messes with us, etc. And this, they think, will make people lay down or renounce the idea of armed resistance, because the immediate effect of assassinating someone so important does make people feel that way. But then they realize that this is something that Israel cannot be finished from. Generation after generation, we have seen it. There are many people. Sinwar, we all had, we all had a lot. We knew how important Sinwar was, also in standing in the face of what the goals were that they wanted to implement in Gaza, and how they wanted, to change Gaza and ethnically cleanse Gaza. And it was like, for Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, people also felt that he was the main figure standing in the face of these plans and thwarting these plans. But the idea is that no matter who is assassinated, there is someone else. It can't all rest on one person, that if Sinwar is gone, Gaza is going to be sold out. It doesn't work that way. It's a very difficult thing to lose such iconic people. But it doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop. You need to look back at history to see that it doesn't stop. And, Yahya Sinwar has people that share that vision of his. You never have one individual alone whose vision disappears when he physically disappears. This is impossible. So it's a very difficult war, but I still can't see how strategically the US and Israel are going to be able to accomplish what it is they're trying to do through inflicting all this pain. And even in northern Gaza, which is now a kill zone, this general's plan, this starvation and extermination plan that even Hamas has started talking about now. I mean, analysts are coming out and saying this is failing, that they have to occupy Gaza in order to get what they want. They cannot just starve hundreds of thousands of Gazans, as they call them. I don't call them Gazans. These Palestinians in northern Gaza are refusing to leave. How can they implement this plan if they are refusing to leave? Now you have analysts saying there was an article in yesterday that I was reading that you have this analyst saying we have to militarily occupy Gaza, otherwise the general's plan is not going to work. The general's plan is failing. We skipped the step of establishing an Israeli military government in Gaza. That's the only way. I mean, the resistance and people on the ground in Gaza are saying it's not clear what Israel's goals are other than killing and besieging and starving. There doesn't seem to be a clear goal. There doesn't seem to be agreement. I mean, they started implementing the general's plan before even announcing that they did it without announcing it. And we knew they would do that. They moved silently to do that while everyone was distracted with Lebanon and Iran. So right now, it's just I'm not seeing any strategic gains yet. Even by assassinating Sinwar, I'm not seeing any strategic gains. I'm seeing a lot of suffering on the ground, especially in Lebanon and in Gaza. Not that there isn't the suffering in the West Bank is also, that's a different conversation. But right now in Lebanon and Gaza, I mean, the suffering still doesn't cancel out this conviction that I and a lot of people have that I'm not seeing the goals being reached. I'm just not seeing them.
So, of course, assassinating leaders or icons will not stop the resistance, because the resistance is a decision taken by the people. Sinwar was not a dictator who launched a war against like a country, against his neighbor or against a friendly country. Sinwar, on 7 October, the operation was against Israel, which is occupying Gaza and Palestine since decades. And also, Said Hassan Nasrallah didn't take a decision to fight Israel. The decision was taken from the people even before he was the leader of Hezbollah. Hezbollah was created in 1982, and Nasrallah was appointed in 1993. So many people were taken down and assassinated, but this road will continue with or without Sinwar, with or without Sayyid Hassan, with or without Haniya, and even maybe with or without Iran, because Iran also as a government or as supporter to the Palestinians, was created in 1979, and the occupation began or was accomplished in 1948. So there were people fighting the Israelis from 1948 till 1979, and they had no allies. They had no source for income. They had no source for weapons. Even what's happening now, it says that the resistance will continue, and the assassination only brings grief and sorrow to the people that support resistance, but it will not stop it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good place, to leave things because there's so much happening, and there's really what's happening militarily on the ground is where people should be focused. I was saying earlier today that all these things you hear, like Britain is considering to sanction Israeli finance minister Smotrich, or the U.S. was going to threaten to do an arms embargo on Israel if they don't let aid into northern Gaza. We saw today the U.S. said no, they're not even considering that. None of this matters. We've seen the inaction and the complicity and the conspiring against Gaza and Lebanon to implement this change in the region. And really where everyone's eyes should be is on the ground, where people are being massacred, where fighters are still fighting. And in South Lebanon and in Gaza. And in South Lebanon, even if they advance, it's not about how deep in they go. It's about how many losses are inflicted on them and what they allow them to achieve. So, planting a flag on a hill or taking a photo of something doesn't cancel out the fact that they're not being able to advance on many axes. Neither does it that there's still a gag order on more than one difficult incident that they're refusing to talk about. This is where people's eyes should be on now, because the choice of resistance is the only choice we have. In my opinion, we don't have diplomacy. and that is what changes the equation and affects the outcome in the long term. So thank you guys for listening and being here with us. We'll try to get bites out more often, as much as we can. It's been very eventful the last few days, and situations a bit tense, but we're trying to bring you all the information we can, and just have these conversations just to give you a feel of what it's like and what's going on. And I hope that you will make sure to follow and subscribe here on YouTube. If you're able to, become a Patreon subscriber, and also follow us on Telegram and on Twitter. And that's it, really. So Karim, thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you next time, guys.